Bismillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul uqdatan min lisani yafqahu qawli. Rabbi yassir wa la tuassir wa tammim bil khair. Let's begin lesson number 22. In this lesson, we are going to discuss about form number 7 of the verb. And this form is called infa'ala, yanfa'ilu, infi'alan. As we can see that the root letters are fa, ain and lam, and there is an addition of in. So form number 7 has the addition of in to it. So we have in the past tense, also in the present tense, and in the masdar as well. Infa'ala, yanfa'ilu, infi'alan. And on this pattern, we are going to learn the verb inqalaba, yanqalibu, inqilaban, to overturn. And the example from the Quran we have over here is إِذَا السَّمَاءُ فَطَرَتْ, when the sky breaks apart. So the thing that we need to notice is there is an addition of two letters, like we have in form number 5 we have ta and tashdid. In form number 6 we have two extra letters, we have ta and alif, and here we have alif and noon. Basically it's hamza and noon, so the addition of hamza and noon makes it form number 7. When we talk about the characteristics of form number 7, number 1 is it is the passive of form number 1. Form number 1 means the thalathi mujarrad, the verbs that have only 3 root letters, like nasara, daraba, samia, and fataha. Verbs of this form are passive of form number 1. Kasara al-finjana, he broke the teacup. So we can see over here that when we say kasara, so when we look at the translation, we have he, so that means here the doer is hidden, mustatir, and it is huwa. So basically it will be huwa kasar al finjana, he broke the teacup. However, we know that when we talk about the past tense, the form number 1 already has damir, which is called mustatir, which is the hidden one. So this one is huwa is fa'il, kasara is fail, fa'il, and then al finjana is maf'ul bihi, the receiver of the action. So we have fail, fa'il, and maf'ul bihi. When this form number 1 is used in form number 7, and we know that there is an addition of in, so it becomes in kasara. Now if we look at the meaning, it becomes the teacup broke itself, al finjanu, in kasara al finjanu, the teacup broke itself. So what happened over here? In form number 1 it was maf'ul bihi, but in form number 7 it became the fa'il, the doer. That's number 1. And number 2, please remember that when we say it has the passive, it is the passive of form number 1. That means it's passive in meaning. It's not the passive itself, it's passive in meaning. As we can see, the teacup broke itself. So when we have the passive, we say that the first is the verb, and after that is maf'ul bihi. But here it is not maf'ul bihi. Here that is not naibul file, sorry. So when we say qutila Bilalun, Bilal was killed, so we will say that Bilal is naibul file. But here it is not naibul file. Here it is the file, the doer. So in kasara al finjanu, the teacup broke itself. So did you get the meaning? Like form number 1, where the doer is like active, but here when we bring it into form number 7, then it gives the meaning of passive, where the thing breaks itself. For example, you say my phone fell down, saqata jawali wa inkasara, and it broke. So did someone break it? No. What happened? It broke by itself. Similarly, when we say inkasara al babu, the door broke, that means it was maybe too old, or maybe something happened, so it broke by itself. Hazam al muslimuna al kuffara, the Muslims defeated the unbelievers. So we can see over here, hazama is the verb, al-muslimuna is the file, and al-kuffara is maful bihi, and this is form number 1. But when we take it into form number 7, what happens? In hazama al-kuffaru, the unbelievers got defeated. Now we can see over here that the non-believers or the al-kuffar has become the subject, and in hazama is verb, but it gives the passive meaning. So what happened here? The meaning changed. Here we needed a file and we needed maf'ul bihi, but when we bring it into form number 7, then maf'ul bihi becomes the fa'il, the doer. And here we will not say that there is a hidden doer inside it, and it cannot be inside it because it is a passive form, and that's why there has to be someone who is the doer, and the doer has to be outside and not inside. This bab denotes al-mutawa'atu. Al-mutawa'ah. So what is mutawa'ah? To change shape, or to follow, or to obey. So that's the real meaning of mutawa'ah, to change shape, or to follow, or to obey. But when we talk about in grammatical sense, it means a verb in the active voice, but with the passive voice meaning, or the meaning is passive. So the verb is active, but the meaning is passive in relation to another form of the same verb. But what happens when we bring it from one form of the verb into the other form of the verb? Then the meaning from active, it becomes passive. Let's look at the examples and it will be clear. For example, note that in fa'ala, which is from number 7, is mutawi'un. It basically follows of fa'ala from number 1. So from number 7 follows from number 1. Example, kasartu az-zujaja. I broke the glass. So kasartu is from number 1, and fail plus file, and az-zujaja is maful bihi. But when we take it into form number 7, then what happens? In kasara az-zujaju, the glass broke. So how did it break? It broke itself. And similarly, the fa'ala, which is from number 5, is mutawi'un, which follows of fa'ala from number 2. Here, kassartu az-zujaja, I smashed the glass. Kassara yukassiru taksiran, as we know, is from number 2. But when we use the same in form number 5, takassara az-zujaju, the glass broke to pieces. Now here it gives the meaning of passive. So from number 7 follows from number 1, and from number 5 follows from number 2. And I remember that when we discussed the characteristics of form number 5, I told you that there are some verbs in form number 5, they have the passive meaning. And now we can see over here that it has the passive meaning. Similarly, bayyana yubayyinu tabyinan. Does anyone remember the meaning of bayyana? Bayyana yubayyinu tabyinan. To make something?
Bayana is to make it clear.
Yeah, to make something clear. Okay. But when we say tabayyana yatabayyanu, then what does it mean? When something becomes when something becomes clear by itself. Yeah.
Clear by itself.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah. So then what happens that sometimes it has the passive meaning, it carries the passive meaning, and that quality is called al-mutawa'atu. And please, the reason we need to discuss is this: whenever you look at any book, whether it is in Arabic or English, you will find this word. So I thought that it's necessary that we should learn about it so that we know what exactly it means. So from number 5 can carry the passive meaning, and also from number 7 it always carries the passive meaning. All right, is this clear?
It comes in self books, Ustad.
Sorry?
It comes in the self books, Ustad, or any the self.
Yes, in surf. Yeah, it's the part of surf, exactly. Yeah. Okay. Mulahadatun, we have a note over here. The hamza of in this case, as we know that in is are the 2 extra letters. In form number 7 is hamzatul wasl. that is, it becomes silent or vowelless when prefixed to waw or fa or any other letter. So we have inqalaba, for example, inqalaba, but when we connect it with waw or fa or any other letter, then what does how is it pronounced? It becomes wanqalaba
One
and
color.
fanqalaba. Yeah. So then the pronunciation of Hamzatul Wasl is dropped, and that's why we call it Hamzatul Wasl. It is used to connect, and when it is connected with something else, then the pronunciation is dropped, it is not pronounced. It becomes wanqalaba and fanqalaba. And it occurs in the following three forms. Okay, now from number 7 to 10, all the forms the Hamza will be Hamzatul Wasl. So we need to know that it will be Hamzatul Wasl only in three forms. It will be in the past tense, al madi. So in past tense it is inqalaba, and then in al amr it will be inqalib, and al masdar it will be inqilab. So whenever we say that Hamza is Hamzatul Wasl in form number 7, 8, 9, and 10, that means it will be Hamzatul Wasl in the past tense, in Fi'l al-Amr, and in Masdar. So all these three forms, their Hamza will always be Hamzatul Wasl. So for example, we have Waw over here, so it becomes Wanqilab over here, and these two we have discussed over here as well. Number 2, so number 1, it is passive of form number 1, and number 2, it can be reflexive of form number 1. Also, there is a possibility that it can be reflexive of form number 1. It is very uncommon or unusual, but it happens. Yani, to let oneself be put through something. Sarafa is to send away someone, and as we have sarf as well, to like move something around and around. So sarafa, and then when we say in sarafa, that means to send oneself away or to depart. And if you remember in the lessons, we have learned several times where we have yumkinukum al insaraf. It is possible for you to leave now. So when we say yumkinukum al insaraf, that means it is possible for you to depart by yourself. It's not that someone is departing you, it is that you are doing it by yourself. So that's one meaning. However, sarf has other meanings as well, like to exchange money as well, and also insaraf al mal is like money exchange as well. So it has different meanings. Similarly, sarf, as we discussed in the verb, like when we change the verb from present to past and past to future and all that, that is also called insaraf al-fail, changing the verb into different forms. Qalaba, he overturned, and when it comes into form number 7, inqalaba, so it can be he or it was overturned, or to return. So basically, to return is something which is reflexive. Yeah. So what is form number 1? He overturned. But when it is form number 7, then it means that it overturned or someone overturned himself. As we have in the Quran, وَإِذَا انْقَلَبُوا إِلَىٰ أَهْلِهِمْ انْقَلَبُوا فَكِهِينَ. And when they returned, as we can see over here, so they returned, it's not like someone returned them to their people, they would return jesting. So now you can see over here, وَإِذَا انْقَلَبُوا. So how do we recite it? وَإِذَا انْقَلَبُوا, right? So what do? We connect active with the one that is vowelless over here, and we do not pronounce Hamza. In the Quran, if we pronounce it like وَإِذَا انْقَلَبُوا, it will be a mistake in the tajweed. So that's why our focus is Quran. That's why we need to know whether the Hamza is Hamzatul Wasl or not. Similarly here again, إِلَىٰ أَهْلِهِمْ انْقَلَبُوا. Again, munqalabu. So what happened here? Again, the Hamza has been dropped. It is not pronounced. So number 1, it is passive, which is very common. And number 2, occasionally, as I said, it can be reflexive of form number 1. And something very interesting here. You know, form number 2 and form number 4, what do? They make fi'l lazim muta'addi. So if there is a verb that is intransitive, they change it to transitive. For example, nazala, he came down, but nazzala, he brought someone down. But in this case, in this verb form, what happens? It changes al-fi'l al-mutaaddi, it changes transitive verb into intransitive verb al-fi'l al-lazim. What is fi'l mutaaddi? Does anyone remember? The verb that needs object. Object, yeah. And fi'l al-lazim, or lazim I should say, does not accept or does not need object. For example, kharaja bilalun, there is no need for the object, so this is lazim. So what happens over here? Kasara is transitive verb, it is mutaaddi. Kasara cannot come itself, and there has to be something that someone broke something, right? Kasara jawali, he broke my phone. To break. But in kasara is to be broken. In kasara means to be broken, okay? Now, when you say in kasara, after that, you need only the subject, you don't need the object. In kasara, as we discussed, in kasara al babu, the door broke itself. So it becomes lazim. There is no need to bring in the object over here. Qata, to cut, and in qata, to be cut off. Fajara, to cleave or to dig something, and in fajara is to gush out. Fanfajarat, yeah. And then we have fataha, to open, and in fataha is to be opened, something that opens by itself. So now this is also very interesting that it changes fi'l mutaaddi, the verb that needs object, it changes it into fi'l lazim. And when we have in kasara, in qata, in fajara, in fataha, after that we only need the fa'il and we do not need the object or maf'ul bihi. So three things. The most common characteristic, it has passive meaning. Number two, it can be reflexive of form number one. And number three, it changes fi'l mutaaddi into fi'l lazim. Yeah, okay. And the reason I had to bring this out because this is considered to be the one of the easiest forms, and it is, but there are a few things that can be misunderstood easily. So that's why I thought that we need to discuss everything in detail so that we don't have any shadow of doubt. So we started our journey from form number one. If you remember, form number one is fa'ala, or it can be fa'ila or fa'ula, and this is the regular form or the standard form, I should say. And then when we have the addition of one letter, so when we add one letter to form number one, then it becomes form number two, like fa'ala. And please pay a very special attention all the time when we go through so that you remember the meaning as well, or like the function as well. So two things that we need to know about fa'ala, it is causative and it is intensive. Causative and intensive. Then we have fa'ala, which is reciprocal, which involves two persons, one is active and one is passive. Af'ala is causative, so it's form number 4. So there is addition of tashdid over here. Tashdid, alif, hamza. How to remember that? Tashdid, alif, hamza. And this hamza is hamzatul qati'. We have to read it when it is past, when it is amr, and when it is masdar. And when there is addition of two letters in first form, and then it becomes from number 5, 6, and 7. Now you see the verbs are getting bigger, right? So from number 5, there is addition of ta tashdid, tafa'ala, and it is reflexive of from number 2. Then we have ta and alif, addition of ta and alif in from number 6, tafa'ala, which consists of group action. And then today's form is infa'ala, which is passive and reflexive of from number 1. So we have the addition of tashdid, alif, hamza, ta tashdid, ta, alif, and hamza. So you can just memorize it on your fingertips. Ta tashdid, alif, hamza, and then we have ta tashdid, ta, alif, and in. Then the last one is in. How to memorize our formula? So doing tasbih and mujahada are from the basics of Islam. So fa'ala is read because this is from number 1, and we are focusing from number 2, and so on. Fa'ala, sabbaha, jahada, aslama. So note over here. First we mention the masdar, and then after that we mention the past tense. And we know that fa'ala is verb and doing is basically fi'lun, which is the masdar as well. So it is fi'lun, which is doing, as we know that, right? So doing tasbih and mujahada are from the basics of Islam. Fa'ala sabbaha jahada aslama. If we do tadabbur and ta'awan, and you know that again, we mentioned masdar first, tadabbara ta'awana, there will be inqalab,
change.
inqilab, it will be inqalaba. One, can you repeat it with me one time? Doing tasbih and mujahada are from the basics of Islam.
Are parts of the Islam and
Fa'ala
tadabbara
sabbaha
and
jahada
ta'awun.
aslama. So we have to also go through the past forms as
These are
well.
the families,
Mhm.
let's say.
If we do
Such the
tadabbur
examples
and
for the
ta'awan,
families.
mhm.
Yeah.
If we do tadabbur and ta'awan,
Then we can bring a change,
yeah, tadabbur
or
and
it will
ta'awana,
change by itself.
there
All
will
by
be
itself.
inqilab. Yeah, so then there will be a change, and inshallah the change will take place by itself. But what do we have to do? We have to do tadabbur and ta'awan. Very important. Yeah. So please try to memorize this, because I want you to master these forms. So inshallah, when we start the Quran, then we shouldn't have any doubt. So the form is inqalaba, the verb that we are focusing on. Inqalaba yanqalibu inqilaban. How to make fi'l al-amr? We know that when we make fi'l al-amr, the first step, what we will do, we will make the ending sakin. So it is sakin, we can see over here. Number two, we will drop alamat al-mudari. Yeah, so when we drop alamat al-mudari over here, so here it becomes tanqalib, and here we have sakin and qalib. Yeah, so you know when we have iltaqa al-sakinain, it's not possible to read it. So in this case, what do we need to do? We have to bring Hamzatul Wasl, and Hamzatul Wasl takes kasra. Why does it take kasra?
Because the third letter is
Because we have fatha over here. Excellent. There is no dhamma. If we have dhamma, we will put dhamma. If there is no dhamma, then it will always take kasra. Excellent. So our fi'l al-amr is ready. It is inqalib. Inqalib. So the changes that we made the ending sakin, then we dropped alamat al-mudari, and we made the ending sakin, and then we had to add hamzatul wasl, and it became inqalib. So fi'l al-amr is inqalib. However, I will not put kasra over here because this is hamzatul wasl. And fi'l al-nahi, you know, it's very simple to make. For example, we have tanqalibu, we make the ending sakin, and we put la an-nahiya, and then it becomes fi'l al-amr. Fi'l al-nahi, sorry. So it is la tanqalib. La tanqalib is fi'l al-nahi, and then we have ismul fa'il. You know, the formula is very simple. In the beginning, we put mu, mean with dhamma, and then the second last root letter takes kasra. So it becomes munqalibun, which is ismul fa'il. A very important note, since this verb has a passive meaning, it does not have ismul maf'ul. Very important. So it does not have passive form. So there is no passive for the past, there is no passive for the present, and similarly, there is no ismul maf'ul. As-sarf, as we saw in the beginning of the lesson, as-sarf as-saghir. So we have inqalaba yanqalibu inqilaban fahuwa munqalibun. Yeah, and here we don't have anything in passive, as we discussed previously. It does not have passive form. So fi'l al-amr will be inqalib, fi'l al-nahi will be la tanqalib. However, we have munqalabun, and it is going to serve as dharf zaman wa makan. You know that there is no specific pattern of derived forms of the verb for dharf zaman and makan. So what happens, maf'ul bihi takes place of, or the wazn of maf'ul bihi, we should say, the pattern of maf'ul bihi takes place of dharf zaman and makan when needed. It's not always the case, but whenever needed, it will take place of this. So we don't have ismul maf'ul. However, we have dharf zaman wa makan. Is this clear? So munqalib is ismul fa'il, but munqalab is dharf, and it's not ismul maf'ul. Let's have a look at few more examples. So the same thing here, and this is from the notes of the Sheikh, from the Institute of the Sheikh. So it's always good idea to include it, because they put lots of effort, and it will be sadaqah jariyah for them and for us as well. So the regular form is fa'ala fa'ila and fa'ula. And when we take it into form number 7, then there will be addition of in. So it's not, it is Hamzatul Wasl. Qalaba, we saw this previously. He overturned or it overturned. And in qalaba, it was overturned or he was overturned. Qat'a, he cut. And in qat'a, it was cut. Kasara, he broke. And in kasara, it got broken. And then we have kashafa, he revealed or he disclosed. In kashafa, it got revealed or it got disclosed. So anything that gets disclosed without the mentioning of anyone else, then we will say inkishaf, something that was revealed by itself. Bagha, he desired. And imbagha, it was fitting and proper. Sometimes it has a completely different meaning. Imbagha, and what will be the present tense?
Yambagi.
Yambaghi. Yambaghi imbighaan. And we know that in Arabic language, only the present tense is used, past tense is not used. It means it's necessary or it's befitting for someone. Hazama, he defeated, but in Hazama, he was defeated. So look at the beauty of the Arabic language. In just not changing it, the vowels, not making any changes. Like you know that when we make nasara, when we have the past tense, but when we want to make the passive, we have to make it nusira, right? We have to change the vowels. But here, even without changing the vowels, it still gives the meaning of passive. And this is the diversity and richness of the Arabic language, because now we can see that maf'ul can be of different forms or different. There can be 3 types of maf'ul. So one will be nusira, and then the other will be mansur, and then if we have it, it will be insara, or we can say like kasara, and then we have maksur, something that is broken, and in kasara is also something that is broken. So now you know 3 types of passive: kusira, maksur, and in kasara. Right?
Yes.
Yeah. So, and then I think, the thing that we again from the notes of the Sheikh, we can see over here that our journey that started from. Is this from me or someone else? That's from me. Okay, so it started from number 2, and all the way it is up to from number 7. Infa'ala, yanfa'ilu, infa'il, and infi'al. And we have ismul fa'il, but we don't have ismul maf'ul. And I think that's it. I was thinking of like we should start the lesson, but then I thought let's reflect and focus on the form itself, and then inshallah when we come back again we will start the lesson. Any questions regarding this form? Since you have seen all of it, so there is a very important point that we need to mention over here. إذا السماء انفطرت, when the sky breaks apart. Okay, so here we need to know that the sky does not break apart by itself. It is a news that we receive from the Quran. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us, letting us to know that this is something will happen. However, it will happen bi amrillahi ta'ala. It will happen with the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? The sky will not break apart by itself. It will break apart with the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, with the idhn of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, with the permission of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. However, for us, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us in the Quran for us to need to know that the time will come when the sky will break apart. So that's why when we look at, because it's a part of our aqidah and we need to be very careful about it, that we shouldn't be thinking that the sky will break apart by itself. It will break apart with the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's it. Something very important that we needed to know. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته. جزاك الله خير أستاذ.
وإياكم. بارك الله فيكم.